Hey guys, thank you for stopping by and welcome to another episode of Thoughtroversy, the part of the channel where I try to encourage discussion about a certain topic that's been gnawing at me for a while. What is it this time? Well, can't you read the title? You dingus! It's about 1-ups and extra lives. I recently replayed Crash Bandicoot for the PlayStation 1, a game from my childhood, and I had a lot of fun with it, at least in the beginning. The later stages are pretty brutal, and I found myself having a lot of lives only to spend them all on just one level and then get game over. And what did that game over do? Well, it reverted me back to my last saved point. And with how difficult it can be to save in this game, I lost a lot of progress. And I was also reverted back to just 4 lives. This was incredibly disheartening, so I went back to the first few levels and decided to grind out a couple of lives to try again. And then it struck me. This all sounded very similar to my previous video where I criticized Bloodborne for having to go back and farm for blood vials. But in Bloodborne you could at least buy them, even if they were expensive. Here you're kinda stuck having to farm, or get good, or maybe even both. Now don't get me wrong, I think Crash Bandicoot is still a really fun game, but it just got me thinking a bit regarding the whole extra lives part. Are they necessary? What do they add to the game? I wanted to make sure I wasn't being a complete idiot by asking, so I boldly took to Twitter to see if I couldn't garner a response with my good followers. Ah yes, let's see here. Yes, that is quite the amount of responses. Ooh, wow, I don't know if I have time to go through all of these. Ooh, next time I'll do a straw poll. Jokes aside, I then took to Reddit to get a slightly larger pool of opinions and the like, and I got a lot of great responses there. Thank you so much, Reddit, and thank you, DeWise, for being the only person to reply to me on Twitter. Opinions ranged from being a necessary evil for making a player learn the mechanics of the game, to feeling like they're just a relic from the arcade days that needed to die because we weren't paying quarters anymore to play. What do I think? Well, I'd like to try to see this from both sides, and maybe we'll come to a conclusion later on. First and foremost, I'm not saying that limited lives are a bad thing, because games like Monster Hunter has 3 lives shared between all players in any given hunt, and that works great. No, we're mostly going to focus on platformers in this video, with an occasional look into other genres. Now, how do platformers typically do it? Well, games like Sonic the Hedgehog, Mario, Crash Bandicoot, etc. all have extra lives, but they all behave slightly differently. Sonic's extra lives are just sitting there in a box. So are Crash Bandicoot's. Mario's lives are different though. Mario's 1-ups actually tend to run away from you, which actually changes the way you play. This is actually pretty cool. But what do all these extra lives have in common? Well, they play a really neat sound or jingle when you get them, and it just sounds good. Hey, listen, listen. Isn't that great? They feel awesome to get and can sometimes be their own little reward for doing a particularly difficult challenge. Much like these boxes in Crash Bandicoot. See them? There's an extra life between some TNT boxes, and if you fuck it up, you're dead. But if you make it... Aw yeah, give me that sweet dopamine release. Whoosh. But is it worth it? I mean, if what you have to gain by having extra lives is a neat little reward for doing something you otherwise wouldn't do, is that worth the potential frustration of dying and losing a lot of progress? Let's break it down, shall we? Extra lives give you a neat little jingle. The existence of them as a mechanic means that you're likely to feel a lot of tension when you're on your last couple of lives and you really want to beat this level, or else you'll lose a lot of progress. It can also help give you motivation to stop playing and take a break. It lets you come back later with a fresh mind, you know? Now, on the other hand, there's nothing stopping you from never picking up the game again. Having extra lives can make you feel even more frustrated with the game than before. Aw, damn, I couldn't do this level with 50 lives. How am I supposed to do it with only 3? This mentality often breeds unwanted behavior in the player. For instance, I went back to the earlier levels in Crash Bandicoot and mindlessly, boringly tried to farm as many lives as I could before returning to my proper adventure. I don't think the developers intended for me to do that, but that was the only option for me at the time. Then there's the fact that oftentimes the extra lives seriously don't matter to you at all. Take almost any 3D Mario game. I end up swimming in the damn things, lives up to my ears. At that point, I fear the live system only serves to punish players who do poorly even more than dying already does. In games like that, why do extra lives even exist? To give you a little reward at the end of an optional puzzle or task? Well, yeah, I suppose, but star coins or green stars already fill that role excellently already. Even worse, in nearly all 3D Mario games, you end up with a default 4 or 5 lives every time you quit anyway, so getting the extra lives matter even less. In fact, let's see what a game over does in Mario 64. Well, it seems that dying takes us out of the level and we gotta start that star all over again. What does a game over net us? Ah, I see. We go back to the title screen and we just have to run back inside the castle. Well, that just means that the game only really wasted our time just a little bit more than usual. If the punishment for a game over is that weak, basically just having to walk back into the castle, then I'd say that falling from the sky in that one bonus level is just as bad as getting a game over, since you end up outside the castle anyway. Mario 64's game over feels really unneeded and kind of feels like a time waster rather than a fleshed out mechanic. Of course, Mario 64 is one of my favorite Mario games, so don't think that this slight critique means I don't like the game. The same goes for Crash or Sonic as well. I'm just saying that these parts may not be as thought out as the rest of the mechanics usually are. So what would happen if games got rid of the lives system altogether? Well, games like Rayman started out with extra lives and then later evolved into not having them at all. If you die, you jump right back from the last checkpoint, ready to go at it again until you beat it. They're still really fun games, and I feel they're much better for not having extra lives. Super Meat Boy follows the same idea. You die, you go back immediately, and you just keep on keeping on until you make it. Dark Souls or Bloodborne also lets you continue as many times as you want. Ooh. Ugh. Imagine playing Bloodborne with limited lives and game overs. Ugh. It's about at this point in the script writing that it struck me. I don't think I've actually played a game with an extra lives system in ages. At least not a modern one that wasn't Mario, or wasn't Sonic, or wasn't even Donkey Kong Country Returns. Hell, even games like Shovel Knight, which is drenched in retro game inspirations, ditched the extra lives system and rather went for a Dark Soulsian approach. I assume that this means these modern games lean heavily towards tradition more than anything else. In fact, I'd say that makes a lot of sense. Extra lives in these games seem to only be there for show. Probably because they're just so goddamn iconic. I bet if Nintendo got rid of 1-ups, people would complain that they got rid of something so classic and iconic to the series. This just begs another question then. If we assume extra lives are merely a tradition thing nowadays, does that excuse them? Would you rather not see extra lives at all, or do you just enjoy the jingle too much? I admit that running after an extra life into potential danger is something I really like in Mario. It reminds me a lot of the crystal lizards in Dark Souls or their slightly creepier counterparts in Bloodborne. I would get tunnel vision and run straight into a trap. Anyways, what do you guys think? Are extra lives just tradition nowadays, or are there modern examples I'm not seeing here? Do they add anything substantial to the game, or do you just think that they subtract from the overall experience? Would you like to see them abolished, or would you like to see more games with this system in place? But more importantly, maybe the best question of all is, which games do you feel nail the extra lives system? And what circumstances contribute to making them awesome in those games? I would seriously love to hear your thoughts about this. And there you have it. Those are my thoughts on extra lives. Now, before I go, I'd like to tell you about a new development for the channel. I actually started a proper side channel, a gameplay channel called Focie Plays. I started this side channel because I thought I could upload Let's Plays, or maybe even stream a bit there every now and then when I need footage for my main videos. This means that I can interact with you guys as I also record footage. It's a good time, I promise. In fact, if you go there right now, there's an episode of Mother 3 there waiting for you. It's a series I'm doing because I need the footage for an upcoming review, so why not hop on over there and say hi? And finally, I'd like to mention that if you want to be part of the questions or polls like Mr. DeWise over here, I'd encourage you to go check out my Twitter. That's where I would post them after all. And I think I'll stop there, or else we're going to get dangerously close to please like, comment, and subscribe territory, and I really don't want that. Now, all that's left for me to say is that I thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to get footage for my next video. Ha det bra!